Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. If you can do us a big favor, give us a thumbs up, like, share, follow, subscribe. All those things are free and will help us reach and help as many people as we can, which is the big goal that we have. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first episode or whether you've been with us from the beginning, we're happy to have you no matter where you are. If you're in the United States or any point across the world, thank you for choosing to spend even just a second with us. We value having your attention, even if it is just for a second or two. And we're going to be getting into another important topic, which comes up as we, in the United States, as we turn the calendars towards August. And I know as a child growing up that wasn't too terribly enthused when August was coming, because I knew that meant that going back to school was just around the corner, and it seemed like that summer always went way too fast, and I think that continues to be the case. It's like anybody with has a vacation. That I know for me it takes a couple of days for my body really even to just realize like, oh, I'm at the beach or I'm wherever I'm at for vacation, and that I can take a deep breath or two and like, okay, like I don't have to be thinking about all the day-to-day things that I need to. I can decompress a little bit. So with that being said, with this particular episode first airing in August here in 2025, I wanted to cover some areas that maybe we know about, maybe we don't, maybe it's a confirmation, maybe it's, again, just a refresh, and try to just, again, give you as much information and try to give you the ability to make the best decision you can, and to use Voices for Voices for part of that. We thank you for that. We share facts and information that we want to bring to the public, and whether that's an individual's mental health story, their trauma, their addiction, their human trafficking, or their bullying story, then that's what we'll do. We'll support in any way that we can. So what we'll do here for this one and this episode is we're going to talk about a lot of back to school tips for those who have children, those who have grandchildren, nephews, nieces, or guardians. Not a Cleveland Guardians, but a guardian of an individual for one reason or another. We're not going to get into those specifics. We're just going to get into, if you have an influence on children, this is who this particular episode is for. So something as small as having your child zip their backpacks up before they leave the house, the condo, the apartment, and if they are walking, then we obviously want to have that backpack zipped up. And if they're a walker to school, we want them to, in as many cases as humanly possible, to walk with a group, walk with at least one other person. Because when we're in groups, violence and crimes are less likely to occur when there's groups instead of one person, or if you're able to get 3 or 4, then that's great. Doesn't mean we have to be the best friends with all of those, and I think that's an area to just think about that. And it's hard at any age when we're looking and we're seeking approval, even when we know we don't have to. That, like, oh, am I doing a good job? Did I do a good job? And if somebody either says we didn't, or is just a little bit rude when they respond, it can hurt anybody's feelings. And guess what? We're humans. We all have feelings. And so walking in groups is obviously preferable. If they ride the bus, again, being in a group usually is helpful when there are bus stops. I think one of the intentions from the school and planning is, as much as possible, to have more than one student picked up at a location. I know that's not always the case, but I think that's one of the big intentions that planners have when they look at that. And again, that's that whole being in a group, waiting for the bus, even if it's 1 minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or if it's super hot or super cold, or and obviously having an adult guardian, the more the merrier, I guess, is the kind of cliche or that I used over the years. I don't know how it got into my mind, but it's one that I use. So yeah, the larger the group, the less likely that a crime will occur. It doesn't take the chance of crime down to 0. It just lowers that amount. That's really what we're trying to do. With backpacks, and this is something that unfortunately it just happens, is from time to time, sometimes there are school shootings. And so for myself as a parent now, I'm thinking more and more like, how can I help my child, defend themselves if they were ever to get into that type of a situation. And the school so far is early in her career as a student has done a good job of sprinkling in different trainings, like with the tornado drills, and it's, as a parent, it really just breaks my heart that we even have to go this length, and regardless if our children are in high school or whether they're in kindergarten, or even if they're at daycare, it's just hard to fathom that these terrible things happen. One thing that we can do as parents, as guardians, is you can purchase, they call it a panel. And so basically it's really thin, and it's meant to go inside of a backpack, and it's bulletproof. And there's different levels of bulletproof, of like, I don't know if it's like level 1, 2, and 3, or and so there's options. And so that would be something to take into account. It might seem like something minor, something small, but heaven forbid if And I pray this never happens ever again. Heaven forbid something like this happens, to at least know that our child is able to, if they're going from place one to place two, that they could shield themselves a little bit with their backpack. Again, that's not a foolproof thing. It's not 100%, but it's something. It's something that we can do. It's something that's easily, it's not illegal to have. So it's easy to conceal. It literally just almost looks like another folder. And so that's something that you may want to think about for your child, no matter how young they are, no matter how mature, or the grade that they're in high school, they're graduating. I look at it this way: you can never be too safe. You can't control everything. Heck, we can't control a whole lot. And so, if heaven forbid we're in a situation, we would like to, us as parents or just an adult, we don't have children or in the family, we might want to think about those things maybe for ourselves too. Like, oh, well, it's not just schools that these just terrible events happen at. And again, I pray that it never happens ever again. But again, we're trying to give information to help and to inform. And this is definitely a public safety concern of there's a chance at some point that something could occur. And so for me, as a parent, want to share definitely with you and anybody out there, and please pass this episode on, share it, along with all the other episodes as well. But especially for, we're talking about, the back to school. And so the prices vary on, these types of panels. But again, we're looking for as much peace as we can in our mind, that when if our child walks to school, whether we walk them to school, whether they ride the bus, that once they kind of leave us and our residence, that they're as prepared as they can be, and again, that's something that could potentially save their life. And so I would highly encourage that, if that's you, if you're able to. I'm laughing because this is like the old adage: don't talk to strangers. It's like, oh yeah, of course, we don't want our children talking to strangers. Well, it's not quite like it used to be when I was growing up, where and my mom tells us this story, and it was summertime, and I wanted to do one of these lemonade stands. So we did it. We set it up, and apparently there was just a bank robbery up the street, and the getaway car and the getaway people were driving past, and I guess they didn't stop to get the lemonade, but I didn't know the difference. I was just like, oh, there's a car. Hey, would you like some lemonade? And so that's just like a very extreme example that happened on that day at that time. But we just want to make sure that our children are talking to and listening to the right people. And we know there's people in all kinds of professions that are awesome. And then there's people that, whatever reason, we all have flaws as human beings. And so there's some individuals that do have flaws, and they may be in positions of power or authority. And so we really need to talk to our children, not just, well, don't talk to strangers. It's okay to talk to your teachers. And, well, not all. And this is, coming from an educator myself, teaching in university age students, that doesn't mean that all those individuals are safe people. So we want to mold our children so that they're able to spot that as much as they can, and it's hard to spot even just as adults. What people's motives are and why they're asking, because there's something that's come up, over the past several years. It's called grooming, and part of grooming, you heard of the Epstein and the Diddy trial and other ways, other avenues. In grooming, I want to say it's like grooming and combing are two different things, but for some reason combing comes to my mind of you're combing your hair and all the strands, or as many strands, are pointing in whatever direction you want them to be. And so grooming is really an individual that is using their place and power as an adult, as whoever, of just having those conversations and trying to be that one of those trusted people. And like the combing, it's trying to get the individuals, the victims that they don't know they're victims, going in the direction. They want them to go in the direction that they want. And so having these short conversations to a child, and some might seem minor, and like it's not a big deal. I want to use minor because minor, right, that has a definition of not being an adult. So it's younger children or older children, that we just need to be aware of those times and those conversations that are happening, and not to be afraid to ask our children. And if we're not getting answers, then we talk to the teacher. Or we're not getting answers, we go to the principal. We're not getting an answer, we go to the superintendent. Superintendent, we go to the board. We go to the board, we go to the police. We go to the FBI. And these are things that I learned from Miss Anna, who is Elliston Berry's mom in Texas, who, right, would, the Take It Down law. It was the Take It Down Act. Now it's the Take It Down law. And so that's something she shared with me. She's like, if something's going on, you got to just keep calling. This, they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, if you call one person, they don't respond, then it's like, well, I called them. Well, call two people. Call their superior. Call, city council. Call the principal. Show up and at those conferences and demand answers. Show up to school board meetings and demand answers, because you're probably not the only one that's going through something similar if it's reached that boiling point. And so I want to thank Miss Anna for the tips that she's given us around this content and this material. Is just keep trying. And I like to think of it as well with us and our organization, that, right, like, if somebody doesn't like our show, there's a ton of other shows. They don't like our podcast, there's a ton to choose from. I call it the grocery store. You go to one grocery store, you're looking for one thing, and you don't find it. So then you go to the next one. And then you go to well, it's the same thing with shows and podcasts. Well, you don't like this one, you don't like this episode, go to a different episode. You don't like that, go to a different show. That we're exercising our freedom of speech. And so some of the bad actors are able to also use their freedom of speech. So are we. The bad actors might not like when we do exercise our First Amendment right, but as a U.S. citizen under the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment, free speech, and then we talk about the public. We want to inform when at all possible. We want to share. We want as many people to feel less alone, like they're in the dark, that they're in the shadows, that they can't come forward. And we want to be part of that guiding light where individuals are. And so these solo episodes I'm doing are just as important, because these topics are touching many, 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 many lives, like thousands of lives. And I'm just learning about, right? So if a teacher watches or listens, well, and they find the information helpful, which we hope they do, we don't see any reason why they wouldn't, and then they share those tips with maybe an orientation with parents, and then the parents may share with their friends that have children, or even if they don't. And so we have this effect that we don't know as an organization or as a human being how we're impacting and how many people we're really helping or affecting. And that's what keeps me going. That's one of the big things that keeps me going, that just because I don't hear every single person or organization give specific feedback does not mean they're not using some form of the information we're sharing. That's just not the case. So don't talk to strangers. If one of our guests, Kathy Picard, she is a law changer around Boston, Massachusetts. She has a book, I Love You So Much That, and it talks about being a kid, but also there's like the doctor can ask you about your privates, and even as tough as it sounds, sometimes there's not great doctors. But in general, if doctors are able to ask about our privates, but when other people outside of that and the parents and the guardians, our children need to feel comfortable enough to tell us as parents, tell us as guardians, tell us as people in authority that can help escalate if somebody is, even if they didn't ask them, maybe they asked like their friend. We just need to communicate, and it's hard to do, right? Because I by trade am an introvert, which is hard to fathom, right? Because of all the talking I do. But there's a lot of us that we're introverts, and we're silent a lot. We might not say a whole lot, like verbally. There's times obviously like these where I'm able to turn on, the extrovertness, we'll call it. But yeah, if somebody's asking about our kids' privates, that needs to be escalated ASAP. This isn't I wait till tomorrow or I wait till Monday. This is escalation right now. And I think that's what we need to do as parents. We need to take that control back. We're the parents. We know best. They're our children. So I'm not going to have somebody else tell my child, nor should you feel comfortable with, a whole lot of people asking these types of questions. So that's what this book, I Love You So Much That, it's available in English and Spanish. It's on Amazon. Kathy Picard, you spell her last name Picard. She was one of our first speakers at our first event, Voices for Voices. She's been with us from the beginning. It's amazing that she wants to continue to help children. And she gets asked for book signings a lot. And one of the biggest shameful parts of that is so many people ask her not to read. It's like a page or a page and a half. And that page and a half out of, I think, like 20 pages or so, children's book with pictures, the bigger font, larger font, easier to read. It talks about that, your privates are your private. Keep your privates private, a doctor. And so there's that page and a half. People are saying, Kathy, we love your book, but, don't mention that. That's too deep, too personal. And she's like, no, like we need to be taught, like our children need to hear from us about these things. They don't need, there's going to be things we can't control. Their friends are going to say things and they're going to hear things. But as many things as possible, they need to hear from us, the parents, first. And that's our point, and Kathy's point with the book is we want to be the individuals sharing with our children. As uncomfortable as the conversation may be, I'd much rather have it or have my wife handle it than somebody that, although they may be in a good spot and may seem like a good person, I don't want them telling my daughter for the first time about certain things. And so the fact that people are asking Kathy, well, don't include this, I think that's a shame. I think that it's a travesty, and we're selling our children short if we're not willing to talk about the hard topics. That's just like us at Voices for Voices. We talk about, the human trafficking and these topics that are hard to talk about, and they're like thought of as taboo and all these other terms. But we still cover them because they're so important. They're so important, and that's why we're covering them. And if any bullying's going on, right? Somebody's bullying our children, or our friends are seeing somebody being bullied, talk to teachers and escalate. A teacher's not doing anything, go to the principal. Principal's not doing anything, go to the superintendent. And superintendent's not doing anything, go to the police. Police isn't doing anything, go to the FBI. FBI is not doing anything, reach out to the president. Here's the thing. If we don't ask, nothing's going to happen. So it's on us if we want change, if we want somebody to listen, and we realize with our show that we do actually have the White House. There are individuals that are aware and do listen and watch our show. And that's because I've made it a point with some of these issues and some of these things that we're talking about to raise it to that level. Because for certain things, certain people have let things go and haven't done their job. And so I want to make videos and our show. I want as many people to know about it because people need to know. I don't want my child disappearing for weeks going with somebody that they don't know. You don't want that to happen to your child. Nobody does. So we need to talk about these topics. So we're going to close out and say thank you for joining us on this episode. Please be a voice for you or somebody in need, and God bless you, the United States of America, and everybody in the entire world. Thank you for joining us.